I'm going to talk to you now about dealing with consequences. And all of these things that I'm talking to you about are a normal part of our relationships in life, and especially our difficult relationships. But again, we're looking at them in the context of the crisis that we're dealing with the coronavirus quarantine and all that implies. So first of all, consequences are what come from choice. People have a right to make choices about their own lives, what they want to do, what they choose to do. We don't have a right to control other adults. Now, if we're in a close relationship, like a marriage, we can try to influence that person. If it's our child, we can tell the child what we think. If the child is in our home, we have the opportunity to set, limits or boundaries or whatever it is that protect us in our home. But people have choice. And with that choice comes, because we have the freedom to make those choices, with that choice comes consequences. And we hope that with the consequences, that the person will learn not to make bad choices. That's not always true. It doesn't always happen. But if it doesn't, then the person does not get that feedback. And eventually there will be consequences, and hopefully eventually the person will learn. There is something that we do in our difficult relationships called enabling. And enabling means to allow someone or give somebody the resources to continue to do something that is not healthy or something that is bad, something that can harm that person, something that can harm you, the relationship, or other innocent people involved. So enabling means that you give the person the means to continue the unacceptable behavior, or it can be that you step in and you prevent the person from experiencing the consequences. So instead of the person, you know, leaving the car somewhere and not carrying where it was parked, and then it gets towed, you go down there and you pay the tow fees and you pick up the car and you bring it home to where the person never feels anything, any of the inconvenience, any of the fines, any of the time wasted to go get that car that is parked in that place where it's not supposed to be parked. And that's a pretty simple example compared to some of the horrendous things that we deal with in difficult relationships. But that is what the purpose of consequences is. God made the world with consequences, right? With choice comes consequence. And that's the cause and effect that we see in a logical, orderly world. When you put a corn seed in the ground, you get a corn stalk. You do not wonder what you're going to get. You don't say, oh, I wonder if it's going to be an apple tree or a corn stalk or a peach tree or some carrots. You say, I'm growing corn. Okay, if you don't put the corn seed in the ground, you don't get corn. Therefore, the cause and effect is a logical order. The same thing with the choices that we make. We do something, it sets something in motion, and it causes the outcome. That's what we have to keep in consideration. Now, what about the coronavirus? Okay, so what are some things that people could be doing that could be causing problems in the coronavirus? What about disobeying or I'm not going to say disobey because I don't like that when it comes to government, but what about not being careful with who the person is exposing himself or herself to, like going out, going around people that are sick, going around people that, just completely not caring, and then coming home and maybe exposing you if you're in a situation where you're vulnerable and you're an at-risk person, or like, you have old elderly parents around that you're around, that person isn't caring. So that's an example. Or not caring about spending money frivolously when you're have a lost job and your finances are getting depleted and you're not sure where you're going to be able to pay bills shortly. So that person is irresponsible financially. Or the person is irresponsible in helping you and doing the things that need to be done to take care of somebody in the family who's ill or somebody that needs additional help. So these are all types of things that somebody could do that would cause consequences. Now, the question I always get is in relationships is, okay, fine. Let the person experience the consequences. I'm okay with that, but here's the problem. I'm married to that person, or that's my kid. And when my kid does these things, it causes me pain and it hurts and I can't let go of it. When my spouse does something, it directly impacts me. If the finances are impacted, I might lose my house too. I'm the one that's also going to suffer because there's not going to be anything, and my kids are going to suffer, or our kids are going to suffer. Yes, in reality, that's true. you are going to be affected. So you have a couple of options when it comes to choices. The first one is that you can protect yourself ahead of time. You can recognize, okay, this person does not make wise choices. This person is going out and exposing himself or herself to people and potentially bringing home an illness, not being careful. Okay, I can't control this person's actions. This person has free will. This person has choice. Therefore, in response to that person's actions, what will I do? What will I not do? Do I need to be proactive and do that now because I recognize the risk to myself and other people? If that's the case, then what are my options? Can I leave and go someplace else? Can I ask that person to leave during this time and go someplace else? What can I do if, since that person is now potentially affecting me, then does that mean that I need to be careful, say, going around my elderly parents or somebody else that's compromised? These are the questions that you have to answer. What are your options in response to the other person's choice? That obviously in any relationship, we can speak truth. Please do not do that. That is at risk. That is making me feel uncomfortable. I'm worried about how that might affect my mom or our child, or I'm worried about how this is going to impact finances and we're not going to be able to pay, and here's the budget, and this is, this is the account, this is how little there's in there. Yes, you can speak truth, but if you cannot get that person to listen to you, then you're going to have to make a choice as to, how do I protect myself? What do I need to do ahead of time to be okay? Do I need to remove half of the money from the account or all the money, and close a credit card account, or whatever that is, pay the bills for the house and the things that need to be paid ahead of time to take the money out so that the bills are paid and that money can't be spent to where the house payment can't be met. So in other words, just thinking proactively. The other thing you can do is speak to the person and say, this is what I will do under these circumstances. This is what I will not do under these circumstances. If this happens, this is what I will do. If this happens, this is what I will not do. So you can set a boundary ahead of time, letting that person know, this is how I'm going to respond to that, whatever that is, right? The other thing that you can do is, if you don't do that and you haven't had warning, and you didn't recognize it, and you didn't take the opportunity to do what you needed to do to protect yourself, then you only have one more option left, and that is to protect yourself after the fact. After the problem occurs, after the situation happens where the consequence does occur and does affect you, then you have to say, I can't change the fact that this has happened, but I can choose how to respond to it. What am I willing to do and what am I not willing to do? And always ask yourself, if there is any way to get the consequences to fall on the person who made the choice, do that as much as possible. Watch your enabling. We enable out of anxiety and fear that if we don't enable, don't jump in there and fix the problem, that it is going to affect you. Make sure when you make that choice, if you do, that you recognize why you're making it. Make it to protect yourself, not to protect the other person who needs to feel the consequences. If you need to do that to take care of something that affects you, go ahead. Don't do it to bail the other person out. So be careful about that. Be careful about why you're doing it. Be careful about what your motive is. So consider this. Again, these are truths that are applicable to all our relationships at all times. Just need a really clear reminder when we're dealing with things that are escalated and more intense and stressful like we are right now. So, okay, I'll be back soon with another video. Good night.